Welcome to another Modswell video. I am your host, Maxwell. Today I'm going to show you how to make a stable forest in your Skyrim. We all want to experience that deep wooded feeling in Skyrim for a few reasons. Not only does it make for epic, beautiful scenery, but it can also lead to extra tactical plays with new cover to play from, and on top of that, it can also serve to hide the uglier LOD issues. I had a few points I wanted to hit with this forest build. The first was I wanted it to be realistic in terms of looks and feel. The second is I wanted it to be stable even in heavier load orders. And finally, I wanted it to be compatible with a few awesome mods that edit the world space themselves. That last point means no Project Hippie because I love my hold borders and bandit camps. However, if those aren't your thing, then you could throw Project Hippie on and have an even bigger forest. The first mod I suggest grabbing for anyone trying to build a forest is Origins of Forest 3D Forest Grass. This mod adds in a thicket to the pine forest areas of Falkreath and around Riverwood. Essentially, prepare yourself to be in the midst of tons of tiny trees, which really add to the idea that the forest is growing the entire time. Origins of Forest comes in at a reasonable 12.2 megabytes, and due to how it's made, hasn't slowed my game down one bit, which when you see the density for yourself might actually surprise you. This mod is fully compatible with other grass overhaul mods too. I, for example, am using it alongside Mari's Grassfield all green version as the colours match really nicely and it only costs 3.2 megabytes. And as a final topper to really bring out this style, I also suggest using Renthal's Ferns for a further 3.4 megabytes. This will complete the thick green undergrowth of the forest perfectly. But with all that green, you're going to want to add in some colour. There are a few options here, and one important one is a good retexture for your plants. You could use Renthal's Flora collection, which actually includes the ferns, which would save you a space. However, I actually opted for Mari's as I found the colours matched really nicely. At 34.4 megabytes, Mari's is actually a tad more expensive than Renthal, so if you're in a build where cost cutting is important, then perhaps go the other way. Mari's covers pretty much all the flora, and this has really helped with the depth of the forest, but I actually decided that I wanted more colour, and decided to throw in Kingport's Flower Fields. Flower Fields adds in a blanket of colourful flowers to the ground in multiple areas in the game. They're designed to fit in with where they are. For example, Whiterun will have tulips and poppies, Falkreath gets daisies and Lily of the Valley. There are plenty more, so check the link in the description to get a full rundown. The reasons I've added these, beyond adding colour to the green blanket in the forest, is because they remind me of playing in the woods as a child. These kind of things were present and it adds an air of realism to the situation. I'm actually using the low-res version as these look just as good as the high-res and for 26.2 megabytes are half the cost. I know that's still a pretty fair chunk to pay out for flowers, but I really like how they added to the forests. And my final set of suggestions is going to be about the trees. I'm using SFO Definitive as it's my personal favourite tree retexture, but for 96.9 megabytes it will sit you back a fair bit. However, my opinion is these are the best out there. They make the trees bigger, more lush and filled out. Their LOD is perfect and even has patches for other tree changes or additions. These are, in my opinion, a work of art. But if you don't have the space, HD trees or Dark Ages trees of the North only cost a third of SFO and still look great. But back to SFO. With this mod, you'll get extra tree variety, bark texture variety, mushrooms placed on stumps, nicer fallen trees and more vibrant colours. These features really help when trying to create a forest. I tried SFO alongside bigger trees as well as Project Hippie and found they both added very little to my experience. If anything, the damage they did to the LOD made them a hindrance to my enjoyment. And then I tested out something that most would say is counterproductive to building a forest. Less trees, 33% reduction. But hear me out. Due to the new nature of these larger, thicker, fuller trees, the others would be getting less sun to grow, so the thicket makes sense. The plants, flowers and ferns all make sense, but more trees just didn't. I found the space between the trees made so much sense, and the bonus of better frames always goes down nicely with me, so I genuinely do recommend this when building a forest. However, for the sake of honesty, I will say I did spot one floating branch, which was a little upsetting, but it wasn't there when I went back to find it again. Less trees, 33% reduction comes in at pretty small 3.3 megabytes, and for the realism and frames it gives you, I'd say it's a must. But if it's not your thing, just don't use it, and the game will still be pretty stable and thicker in the forests. And that's how I built up my forest. I would love to hear the mods you're using, and I'd love you to come and share screenshots of those over on the Discord server. I will leave a link to that, as well as all the mods I'm using here in the description below. I'll even add where to put them in the LLO using my new version so you can get the same look as me. If this has helped, I would as always appreciate those likes, comments and of course subscriptions. Thank you for watching and I hope to see you in the next one.